dancers, my name is Carson. Welcome back to TwinTalksBallet. Question for you. Are you sick and tired of noticing insecurities come up in ballet class or outside of ballet class anytime in your life? And are you tired of trying to remind yourself of these positive affirmations that you think should work, but they don't? Are you tired of wanting to believe these positive things about yourself, but you just don't feel like you can? In this video, I'm going to address why your positive affirmations aren't working, or at least not as well as you wish they would, and what you can start to do to actually shift your mind into more positive thoughts towards yourself, more positive beliefs in a way that's actually effective. And as dancers, we know that confidence is key, and keeping your mind in a confident state, in a more positive state where you're able to be available to what's going on around you and more present, that gives you so much more space to improve in your dancing and actually enjoy it. And your confidence actually usually gives you the presence of mind and that emotional availability to put yourself out there more. So usually I've noticed there's a huge connection between tapping into more positivity and confidence and seeing the kind of tangible results in your training and in your career that you've always wanted to have. So this video is geared towards helping you step into that confidence and waste less of your time inside of the studio and outside of the studio getting stuck in these negative spirals of thinking that you previously, your only weapon in that was just some positive affirmations that weren't really working. So let's get into this video. And first, before I do, I want to thank again okballet.com for sponsoring this video. okballet.com sells Zerly tights, which if you've been watching my recent videos, you know they're my favorite. Well, first, I own every model that they make practically, and I could not recommend them enough, not only for the look of the tights, the feel of the tights, the durability, and also the fact that they have added compression technology that actually works and makes your legs feel lighter, less fatigued, less stiff by the end of the day. If you stand around a lot, if you dance for a lot of hours, or even if you just take ballet like once or twice a week and you don't want to feel as sore at the end of your class or workout, try out Zerly tights. I was personally shocked that they actually do work and they do feel great. And if you want to learn more about what I think about Zerly tights, I have an in-depth review video that you should check out. It's linked in the description, as well as a nice little discount code for you guys, $10 off your order if you want to purchase Zerly tights for yourself. So check those out. Thank you so much, okballet.com, for sponsoring this video again. And let's get into it. Okay, here's the first problem with positive affirmations. So often we ignore that, honestly, if we are being real with ourselves, our feelings and our emotions have a much more powerful influence on our thoughts, our behaviors, and our beliefs than our logic, our just thoughts that aren't really attached to a certain feeling. Raise your hand if you know there are all these things that you should think and you should do, but you don't do them. You go with the thing that you feel you want to do. Usually, no matter how logical you think you are, like myself, I always thought, I'm not an emotional person. No matter how logical you think you are, your feelings, your instincts, your emotions are usually going to dictate your behaviors much more than you would like to admit. Here's the problem. So often when we slap on a positive affirmation to kind of put a band-aid on something very negative that we're feeling, that's coming from a negative belief that seems to be coming to the surface of your mind and affecting your emotions. So often when we do that, we're acting like this deep-seated emotional problem is really an intellectual problem. When you are really feeling like, I'm just never going to make it in my career. You feel that this is true on an emotional level. By the way, so often what we think is true is really coming from what we feel is true. Our feelings often dictate, or they are a determining factor in what we consider to be true, much more than logically what we've been taught oftentimes. And so when we are deeply feeling like something is true about ourselves, so many dancers, or even parents or friends who are trying to console a dancer who's experiencing these negative emotions, we act like, oh, this is a logical problem, an intellectual problem rather. I should just remind you, as if you've forgotten, that you actually have potential. You could actually make it. Just slapping a logical, oh, you should think, or you should remember, or you should believe this over an emotional problem does little more than just distract them from that true emotion they're feeling. So at best, many positive affirmations are just a distraction tool. Oftentimes, they can even, I think at worst, cause frustration and a blame game going on inside of one's mind who's experiencing these emotions that, gosh, why can't I just remember this is true? Why can't I just remember and stay focused on that positive thought? I want to break down something called explicit memories versus implicit memories. Implicit memories are really long-term, very unconscious or subconscious memories that were oftentimes developed in our childhood. Some types of implicit memories are very heavily tied to significant emotional experiences. So, for instance, maybe when you're a young dancer, you look around the room and for the first time in your life, you recognize that when you look in the mirror or down at yourself, your body doesn't look the same as the other dancers in the room. You feel bigger and you feel less desirable. So maybe in that moment, your little mind learned and sensed that this was true on an emotional level, that you are not beautiful or you are too big. You could go through your whole life after that, working hard, getting fit, and telling yourself and looking in the mirror, I look good. But when you have an off day or a little moment of weakness, that old, deeper emotional truth from your past surfaces and says, I'm not beautiful. Or the deeper truth is that I'm too big and people see it. And so unless that deeper implicit memory is resolved, that implicit memory is going to surface and feel like some sort of truth for you the rest of your life, oftentimes. Let's contrast that to explicit memories. Explicit memories are usually highly logical, things we've learned. They don't have much of an emotional attachment. It could be that, 2 + 2 = 4. Here's how you do a tendu, Oftentimes, we are told, oh, you are a talented dancer. Oh, you have a future, and maybe that doesn't resonate so much at an emotional level compared to that thought of insecurity and that belief that you're not good enough. And so we have these explicit memories of like, okay, yeah, I remember so-and-so told me I actually have potential. I should remember that. But really it's that deeper, more emotional implicit memory that has a lot more influence over you. So if we keep slapping on those logical statements from explicit memories like, no, I should believe this is true, without really digging into that implicit memory and resolving it, removing the emotion from it, forgiving yourself for believing it, unless we resolve that, we can keep throwing logical statements at these things that we feel are true, but it's not really going to solve the problem. So this takes me to my next point. Now that we understand a little bit of the power of emotions over logic, I'm not knocking affirmations. I think it can be very helpful. Here's the thing. If you are going to remind yourself of something positive, you must actually feel that it is true. And so I hear a lot of dancers saying overly positive statements, things that they would like to believe, and they it's almost as if they think if they remind themselves enough of this thing they would like to be true, eventually it will be true, or eventually they will feel like it's true. Here's where I think you should change things. Start with a positive affirmation that you actually feel is true. It could be so small. It could be reminding yourself, I am responsible and in control of what I do in reaction to my thoughts and my feelings. I am responsible for today. I am responsible for taking action now. I am capable. It could be, I am capable of creating the change I want to see today. I am capable of draining that thought of its power. It must feel like it's true. It must feel like it's achievable to you on some level. Even if it's a little lofty, there has to be that emotional resonance to it to actually start to combat that emotional resonance of that negative belief that is surfacing as an insecurity. My next tip for you is to actually get yourself into experiences that actually prove to you that that positive affirmation is true. Put yourself into experiences where you can actually experience on an emotional level that what you want to believe about yourself is true. Oftentimes, dancers feel so replaceable because that's kind of how we're treated, especially female dancers. So it can be life-changing if you put yourself in an experience, maybe a social group, you volunteer with some kids, you start teaching, you realize that you have a voice, you have influence, you have a purpose, and working with other people where you feel like, there's only one of me and I have so much to give. And look, me being me really does make an impact. That positive emotional experience can start to put memories and new emotions and new beliefs, like an emotional sense of truth behind that positive affirmation. So instead of just saying what you want to believe about yourself, get yourself into experiences where you have proof that it's true. Before I leave you today, I want to finish out this video with some tips on how to get started with loosening that attachment to those deeper emotional memories from your past that could be resurfacing as consistent insecurities for you. The first thing you can do is when you notice an insecurity is coming up and you feel like, maybe for me, I used to believe, gosh, I really am unintelligent, which has to do with some emotional abuse I went through with a teacher. I'll get into that eventually in a video like I've talked about before. But anyway, I used to feel that this is true, even though I kind of knew logically it's not. What you could do in a situation like that is first stop and notice. Notice the thought, which is really a belief. Once you pick out that belief and you acknowledge what it is, next thing you can do is ask yourself, when did I decide that that was true? Notice I said decide, because before we believe something, we decide it's true. Decisions are reversible. Go back to that first time you can remember. It doesn't literally have to be the first time, but the first time you remember feeling as if that thing was true about you. Once you identify that memory, examine how that moment where your perception changed, how that has affected your life and your behaviors all the way until today. Once you notice that, do forgive yourself and be compassionate towards yourself for doing the best you could in that moment for what you knew. You're probably young. You're probably experiencing something for the first time and just didn't know better. You just didn't have that ability in the moment to protect yourself from a negative belief like that implanting itself in you. So do have compassion, forgive yourself for just doing the best you knew how to in that moment. Next, ask yourself, what could I learn from that experience? The learning of which would allow me to let go of that first belief. So by doing this, you're going into that emotional experience, seeing the connection between how that has affected your behaviors in your life, forgiving yourself and having compassion for yourself for going through that journey, which happens to all of us. And then you go back to that memory and you ask yourself, what can you learn from it that would allow you to see that situation differently and release that attachment to the memory? Usually, that very simple process does significantly loosen up the grip of that first significant emotional experience and what you learned from it and how you're feeling today. It does loosen the grip of that insecurity. So that's a great place to start. And I can't leave here without saying again that the process I just shared with you is a starting point in the journey towards releasing those emotional experiences from the past and releasing those negative beliefs that came from them. These beliefs that, whether you really are seeing it or not, have been affecting your life and will continue to affect the decisions you make, how you perceive yourself, what you believe is possible for you, the way you feel day to day, and how your feelings even affect you physiologically. Like, these beliefs have such a profound impact on our lives. And I want to invite you into actually creating permanent positive change by releasing those triggers, having emotional freedom from them, so you can finally live up to your potential, finally have that confidence that allows you to go out there and do your best, make the most out of this short career you have as a dancer or short time dancing, whether you want to be a professional or not. I want to invite you into finally having that emotional freedom so that you can actually install new beliefs that truly feel true for you and do work for you. I want to invite you into this process, which can really be done best with a professional coach, a therapist, or a counselor. And personally, as a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, I have processes I go through clients frequently that in 20 to 30 minutes completely drain these negative emotional experiences of their power and their effect. And I want to tell you a story of one of my clients recently who, for the first time, recognized that her fear around getting out there and auditioning again, that was holding her back from dancing, holding her back from getting the education she wanted, holding her back from the future she wanted. She finally acknowledged that together we discovered it was coming from a time when a teacher made her feel like she was completely undesirable and she was never going to make it. And that belief rubbed off on her. And it became too emotionally difficult to go put herself out there again. Because why would you if you really believed no one wanted you? When we walked through this simple process in 20 to 30 minutes, she finally, for the first time in years, experienced freedom from that negative belief. And we installed in her a new positive belief to where she was finally able to make an audition plan and go out there and start to execute on it. This can be so life-changing. And so for you, if you are noticing that insecurities keep coming up, that make you hide in the back of the studio, they tell you that, no, you shouldn't go out there and audition for that company. No one would want you. Don't raise your hand to understudy. You don't know what you're doing. All these things have so much more of an impact on your life than just the way you feel. And so if you would finally like to create that change that helps you to fulfill your potential as a human and as a dancer, I want to invite you to reach out to me. Click the link down below to go to my website, kirstenkemp.com. You can learn more about my coaching services and read some testimonials of other dancers just like you that have honestly experienced life-changing results. And you can book a free consultation with me where we can talk about your goals, what is really blocking you from achieving them, and plan out some next steps going forward. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you really enjoyed and appreciated this video. You got something from it. At the very least, I hope that you have some good strategies to start shifting those positive affirmations and how you use them to shift the way that you feel in the studio when those insecurities do come up, like they do for all of us. Comment down below if you enjoyed this, and I will see you next week. Bye.